Hello everyone and welcome to episode 4 of compilation 1 of English Chinese characters. Today we're going to learn more verbs and some more radicals, so let's begin. The first word we're learning is the word for will, as in the future tense. I will go, you will go, and interestingly, this is a character in Chinese that can have different meanings, especially when it's used in different contexts, and it can also mean able, like I'm able to speak, I'm able to do something, right? And so we are going to use the simplified version to mean will, and we're going to use the traditional character to mean able or able. Able as in the suffix, and able as in the word. This is how you draw will. If you notice, there's like a foot on the bottom, kind of like for go. So it makes me think of like this volition, like you have this will, you're gonna do it. So that's a good way to remember it. And I just want to point out that if we were teaching a class to say children or XYZ student, I wouldn't, or you wouldn't, anyone wouldn't be teaching them Chinese. I mean, that's not what I would recommend. I wouldn't recommend that you're teaching them sort of like how I'm teaching you, like you're connecting it to Chinese, like, oh, this character could be this in Mandarin, or this. I would never suggest doing that. But what I would suggest doing, and I think this is key, is that when you teach children English Chinese characters, you always teach the simplified and the traditional character together. So I'm sort of doing that, but I would do that when the system's fleshed out and it's more possible to do with everything, because you don't need to have them understand that this can mean this in Chinese. You just need to have them know that these two characters are the same thing, so that way if they come across a simplified text and they see this character, they'll also know, oh, but it can also mean able because it's the same character, right? It has these two different meanings. We're pulling on it. And likewise, if they were reading a traditional text and they see able, they'll know, oh, it could also mean will. It could also mean the future tense because in the simplified character. So I would recommend teaching them together. But no, don't teach. You wouldn't teach them what I'm teaching you now. I'm just teaching you because I'm explaining the system, right? I'm just working it out for myself also. Okay, so let's move on. Right now, I want to teach you this character for out. And out, it's a very simple character. It actually has two mountains. So it's one mountain on top of the other. So that shape is mountain by itself. It's also a radical. And yeah, it's pretty simple. So you can think of it like one mountain is growing out of another mountain, out. And the next word, of course, we're going to learn is the word in. And in, I think, is also kind of iconic. It has that same field radical that we learned, and there's a sort of something going into the field, right? So in is a closed character, and out is this sort of like out and open character. Okay, very good. And the next character we're going to learn is the character for please. This character has a radical on the left side. It kind of looks like a torch to me. It's just got like a tiny little flame and then this sort of handle, and it means words. And I like to think of it as a torch because words. It's like the torch of man. It's man's creation or power. So words. And then you might recognize the character on the bottom of the character. We learned that already, and that's moon, right? So please. Maybe you're praying to the moon. You're asking the moon for, I don't know, what would the moon give you? A spaceship. I want a spaceship. Okay, and now I'm going to show you some sentences. The first sentence is this one. Can you read it? It says, I will go in. I will go in. What does this sentence say? She will see you out. The next sentence is this one. Please paint it, right? And the next character we're going to learn is that traditional version of the character for will that we learned. So this is not the future tense, this is able. It's a suffix for able, like eatable, or seeable, or readable, or laughable, right? Now, this is important. Chinese is a syllabic writing system, the Chinese characters. So that means every character represents a syllable. For this character, we're going to allow it, we're going to permit it to be a bull, because is this very like minute, unstressed syllable that doesn't even matter. Like you almost don't hear it. It almost sounds like one syllable, a bull, a bull, a bull. Whereas a word like able, I am able to do something, that we would not have this just be one character. We would actually have one character for a, that syllable, and another character for bull. So that's why here I label it with a sort of suffix indent, but it would be also the bull part in able. Okay, so let's move on to some verbs. Let's just write. Okay, let's write. Let's start by writing the word for read. The word for read has that same radical we learned for words, which makes sense. And this part on the bottom that has the two little raindrops and then the horizontal line, the vertical swoop, and the leg, that part actually resembles the Chinese character for head. So you can think like words going in the head, you're reading, right? The next character we're going to learn is a character I like a lot because it's a word I like very much. It's eat. So what radical do you think eat would have? If you guessed food, that was a good guess, and there is a food radical, but actually it's the radical for mouth. And the radical for mouth is a square. So this is how you draw eat. You'll notice the mouth on the left side. And it's just got this sort of like snake kind of shape. It's kind of, I don't know, it's like, I think it's like you're maybe, I think it looks like you're making a mess because you're eating so much. Okay, so that would be eat and the radical. The next word we're going to learn is the word for speak. Speak and say are the same character in Chinese, the same word. They don't differentiate the concepts like we do in English. So again, we're going to take the simplified version, use it for say, and the traditional version, and use it for speak. So here's speak, and you'll notice that there's this part on the left side that has like a hat, and then 3 lines, and then a square. So that is the radical for words. It's the traditional version of the radical. So yeah, it's kind of intimidating. You have to learn different kinds of radicals, right? You have to learn the simplified version and the traditional version. And you'll notice that the sort of ears or the eyebrows over the square, over the mouth, that they change. They've changed directions in the simplified and traditional version. And the last verb we're learning today is the word for do. So, who does things? People. It has a person radical. And then it has a few more elements. We're going to use this do for every do in English, right? Just like the written form. You know, I do go, I do my homework, do you. They're all going to be this. Do, do, do. It's an important one. Okay, very good. Let's do some more sentences. This is the first one. It is readable. The next sentence is this. Is it eatable? Now, I would say that eatable is an English word, and it's different from edible. Don't read this as, is it edible? Don't do that. It's eatable. Is it eatable? Next. You are lovable. What does this say? Please do it. So please study more, right? So now we've come to the part of our lesson where we try and decipher an actual Chinese sentence. You can't read it, remember that, because you don't know Chinese. I've given you one sentence, but two different versions of it. So the one on top is a simplified version, that's what they would use in China, and the one on the bottom is a traditional version, that's what they would use in Taiwan. So it's the same thing, they're both it's the same sentence, but in English Chinese characters, they would mean different things. But knowing what you know, what do you think this would mean in Chinese? So in Chinese, this actually means like you will speak. Excuse me. God, I'm reading ECC. It actually means you can speak. That's the context that it would probably be used. Like you can speak English, you can speak Chinese, you can speak Swedish, you can speak Dothraki, whatever, right? Whereas if I were reading this according to English Chinese character rules and interpretation, I would read the top one as you will say, and I would read the bottom as you a bull, or you a bull speak, you a bull speak, which is not grammatical. But okay, that kind of makes sense when you think about what it means in Chinese. And then of course the actual English Chinese sentence, in actual English, this would be more grammatical for us, right? We would have you will say it, and then on the bottom, you will speak, right? So sometimes we need those, direct objects that are required. Okay, very good. So good. That was a hard one. Really practice these. Really just takes maybe like 20 minutes. You have your characters. Just sit down, write them all, 5, 10 times. Really think about it. And I always like to, to stare at it. And it's weird. They will eventually just become normal to you. It just takes training, right? Okay, I hope I have been a good trainer, and stay tuned for the quiz. Have a good day night.